baby, all eyes on me. Yeah, where the girls are, 'cause that's how your night should be.
All right. Welcome everybody to GoGoTalx, brought to you by GoGoTix. I am your host, Malachi Johns, and we are here with the illustrious Cy Smith. How are you today?
I guess I am illustrious.
You are definitely illustrious.
I'm good, brother. How are you?
I am great. I am great.
Good.
No complaints at all. Where are you joining us from today, Miss Smith?
I am joining you from my little attic in Los Angeles. I live in West Adams, LA.
Yep,
So
yep. I have
yeah,
been to your house one time in a
that's,
fancy party in your backyard where they played
that's
go-go and
right.
everything, and it was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, man. I can't wait until the world opens back up so we can throw parties like that again. Because this summer was the summer I was planning to throw a go-go in my backyard.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yep.
that's dope. That's
But
dope.
but now I don't think that's gonna happen. I'm gonna have to wait
Yeah,
till next year.
yeah. It's probably not a good idea.
Yeah.
Um, so, why don't you give us your history in the music industry? And how, just whatever your whole. Take as long as you want, as short as you want.
Okay, well, you and I have met and talked before, but for anybody who's watching and doesn't know me, my name is Cy Smith. I was born in New York, but I was raised in DC and Maryland. So I consider myself, a DC girl for all purposes, intents and purposes. I am a singer and a songwriter and a musician, and moved out to LA after I finished studying psychology at Howard University, HU.
There you go.
um, and I moved out to LA and, kind of immediately started working in music, which is what I wanted to do. I really wanted to work as a songwriter, but I ended up getting a lot of gigs as a backup singer. So I think my very first touring gig was with Kenny Lattimore, another
Oh, really?
Maryland boy, yeah, and another Howard guy for that matter.
There you
Um,
go.
and then I went on to sing with Whitney Houston, and then from there it's just it's almost easier to say who I haven't sung with because it's been a lot of people, but Whitney
You can
Houston,
name. You
Shaka
can name.
Khan.
You can name drop on here. It's okay.
Okay, I know because I don't want you to be like, "Sai, you dropped something." Like, what?
No.
But yeah, Whitney, Shaka Khan, Brandy, Eric Benet. I sang with Genuine for a little while. A whole bunch of people, and then in the midst of all of that, I started putting out my own records. I had made an album with a record company called Hollywood Records, but then they didn't put out the album, and then I got dropped from the label, and then I was like, wait, what am I gonna do? And so then I just started, putting out my own CDs and sort of launched into this unknown territory of independent soul music, and that's kind of what I am known for doing, sort of pioneering a scene here in LA for independent soul. So yeah,
So what I'm sorry.
that's okay.
I'm having some slight technical difficulties here. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
So what made you like, I guess, or is just like, was it just you got dropped from Hollywood and that's what you're just like, okay, well, screw it. I'm just going to do it myself.
Pretty much. That's pretty much what happened. Like I got dropped. I was always working though. So it wasn't like when I got dropped, it was the end of the world for me.
Mhm.
I was doing a lot of TV work. I was on a show called Ally McBeal for like 5 seasons.
That was like my mother's favorite show.
Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I was on that show. I was like one of the sort of they called us the Ikettes because that's how our characters were introduced. But yeah, we were like 3 singers who kind of showed up. We would just show up and sing. But
Oh, so you were actually like on screen in the show.
oh yes, I had co let's see, what was my billing? Supporting or co-starring? I had a co-starring billing.
Oh, really? Oh, I need to tell my mother this. She's going to be excited. I'm going to send
Oh
my.
yeah,
Yeah, she used to watch that show all the time. I never.
yeah.
I'm embarrassed to say I'm sorry. I never watched it, but
I
she.
don't. Yeah, even if I hadn't been on the show, I don't know that I would have watched it. But now that I don't know. Now that I'm a little bit older, I totally get why it was such a popular show because it was like popular.
Yeah,
You know,
that was big. Yeah,
um,
yeah. This was
when
not.
I auditioned for it, I didn't know what they were talking about. I got a call and they were like, "Hey, we want you to come audition for this show called Ally McBeal." And I was like, "Happy McNeil? What'd you say?" And but yeah, so yeah, when I got dropped from my label, I was like, I was working. You know what I mean? I
Mhm.
I was doing a lot of commercials. I had like 3 Gap ads running in one year. Nationals and a Coke ad and Chevrolet. So I was doing okay. But because I was doing okay, it sort of allowed me to sit back and weigh my options and figure out what to do. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Mhm.
So I was never in the dire straits that I've seen, unfortunately, many artists kind of go through if they get
Mhm.
dropped from a label, especially back then.
Right. Okay, so I want to back up a little bit and go.
I was lucky to not have to go through that.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
just want to go a little bit slower. So okay, so you grew up in Maryland. Where in Maryland did you grow up?
Um, I moved around a lot.
Mhm.
So when we moved from New York, we moved to Southeast first. And then we moved to Hillcrest Heights.
Mhm.
Then we moved to Temple Hills, and
Okay.
and then we moved to Largo, and then we moved to Kettering.
Yeah, you were all over
So
the place.
yeah, so Kettering was the last place I lived before I went to Howard. And then, when I went to Howard, I moved on campus, you know. So I lived in the Quad my freshman year, and East Towers my second year, and then 11th and Fairmont
Okay.
um my third year, and then the Woodner. No, maybe the Woodner was my third year, and 11th and Fairmont was my last year.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Did you go to Duke Ellington? I don't know if that's. I feel like.
No,
Yeah,
I
okay.
didn't. I didn't go to Duke Ellington. I lived in PG County, and I wasn't even in like the fine arts. Like, first of all, when I started high school, that was the first year PG County offered a fine arts magnet program, and that was at Suitland.
Okay.
And so my mother didn't want me to be like a guinea pig in like a new program. So she didn't even let me try out. So
Wow.
I went to the more established science and technology program at Eleanor Roosevelt.
Ah,
So I
got
was pre-engineering in high school.
Look at you, fancy. So okay, so then you went to Howard and you said my man Brooks. It says you're from 2-5. I don't know what that means. I'm from Annapolis, so I don't know what that means. But
I don't know what that means.
she's not from 2-5, Brooks. She doesn't know what she's talking about. So so you went to Howard and you studied psychology. You said is that right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yes.
What made you do that?
My mother was a psychotherapist,
Mhm.
clinical social worker. She also went to Howard for her master's, so it was like something that was very familiar to me. And my father, his master's is in sociology, so again, it was just something that was really familiar to me. And 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 I remember thinking, if I don't do music, I would do psychology.
So
But
by
even
that time, you were already into music, then.
Oh, absolutely. I was into
Get
it,
into
but
it.
I don't know that anybody else knew how serious I was about it, you
Mhm.
know? Um, like I was in all of the choirs you could possibly be in at Eleanor Roosevelt, women's, chamber, gospel, concert, and then I was in PG County Honors Course, and then I went to Maryland All State, and then I went to all Eastern Malachi, and then I went to the U.S. National Course, and at 16 I went to Europe with them, and like I was serious, but I don't think anybody else really understood how serious I was, and I
Mhm.
was taking piano lessons up until I was like 16, you
Mhm.
know. And after I finished high school, my mom finally let me join a band because that's what I really wanted to do. So yeah, I was always serious about music. I just don't think anybody really knew or kind of took me. I think everybody just thought it was like a passing sort of thing, you know?
But you knew that you wanted to do something like you wanted to be like in a band or like an artist or something like that. Because a lot of people that are in, chorus and stuff like that, I went to college for music theory, and, there's a lot of people that are in there to be school teachers or, professors or play in an orchestra or whatever. But you knew that you wanted to be like an artist and in a band.
I didn't know I wanted to be an artist. I knew
Okay.
I wanted to be a songwriter though.
Okay.
That's what I knew.
Gotcha.
I didn't come out to LA to get a record deal. That is for sure. That the reason I took the record deal was because that was the only way I could get my songs out there. Because every time, people listen to my catalog, like, my catalog demo, when I was shopping songs, they thought it was an artist demo because I sang them all, you know.
Gotcha.
So
So they didn't think you were just doing a reference because it sounded so good. They just figured, I got you.
I guess I don't know, or they sounded so weird, you know. I think they were just weird.
So, you go to Howard, you get your degree, and then you came straight out to LA after that?
I went to Howard. I got my degree. I graduated magna cum laude. Ow.
There you go.
And I worked on Capitol Hill for a little while
Okay.
before I came out here. I worked for a lobbyist for Santa Clara County, California. And then I auditioned for some play. They were having these auditions at what was that club on Landover Road? Utopia. Back in the day, it was a club, and they had these auditions for Motown, and I was in this group called In Tyme, and we went out there and stood in that line and to audition for Motown or whatever. And I don't even think we got a chance to audition, but this guy walked up to me and he was like, "Hey, what do you do?" And I was like, "I'm a singer." And he was like, "I'm directing a play in Los Angeles. I think you could be in my play. I think you could be my angel, right?" And I'm thinking he's like coming on to me. I'm like, this guy,
Interaction.
Right. So he gives me he takes my number or whatever, I give him, take his, I can't remember, but either way, I got a call. I went and auditioned for him, and it was a legit audition.
Nice.
I had to, sing a song, and I had some sides to learn or something. And then I didn't hear from him. And then I don't know, like 2 months later, I ran into him somewhere, and he said, "Hey, I think you're my angel again," right? And I'm like, this guy. And he said, "Would you be willing to come to LA, in like a month?" And I was like, "Sure," because I really didn't think it was going to happen. And lo and behold, this is when people still bought paper airline tickets. A ticket to LA came in the mail for me.
Oh, wow.
And so I packed up my stuff and I talked to my boss there on Capitol Hill, and she was very supportive. And I went to the airport, and Lizette TT is on the same flight, and she was also in the play. And she and we were friends back then, so we're still friends. So yeah, me and Lizette TT flew out to LA on a Southwest ticket. I'll never forget it because I felt like we were on the Greyhound of the Sky because we stopped like 3 times.
Oh, man.
But yeah, we came out here and did that play, and it was kind of whatever. But it got us out here, and then I decided I wanted to stay, and so I went back home and got the rest of my stuff and drove back across the country.
Done it myself a few times. Yep.
Yeah.
So real quick, the band In Tyme, was this? So I realized I skipped a whole part that's pretty pertinent to the topic of this series. This was a go-go band, yes?
Okay, no. In Tyme was like this a cappella sort of Manhattan Transfer, New York Voices group that I was in at Howard. The go-go band I was in was called Royalty Queens.
Royalty Queens.
Royalty Queens. Shout out to Vince Richardson. He was our manager. and the band was
Wait, V Rich, Vince Richardson?
not V Rich,
Oh, okay,
another Vince.
I got you.
Vince. Let's see. The band was Shawnee. Shawnee was on drums. Erica Poindexter was on bass. Cleo was on keys. Um, I think the lead singer's name was Maisha. And there was another lead singer, but I can't remember her name, and she got pregnant and then ended up having to leave the band. And and God bless me, I can't remember the percussionist's name to save my life. I'm
Mhm.
terrible.
Well,
But
how many pieces were in this band? How many members?
it was three front girls. Oh yeah, because there was a rapper. It was three front girls when I first joined, and then Cleo, Shawnee, Erica, and myself. So that and the percussionist. So that's eight
So eight.
people.
Okay.
But by the time we really started gigging, or gigging a little more, I think we were like, oh, because then Cherie joined us.
Oh, nice. She was
Somebody
just on
left.
a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, and so then we were like maybe seven, something like that.
Yeah. Gotcha. Well, the reason I
Yeah.
ask is because I've always maintained that Mambo Sauce was the smallest go-go band in the history of
How
go-go,
many?
and seven.
Oh,
But then I thought I read somewhere that your band had six, and I was like, shit, did I just make me a liar? Like I so, but if
oh,
you
that's funny.
yeah, but if you I mean we'll get into this later, but if you look at the makeup of Mambo Sauce, it's exactly the makeup of Fourth Avenue Jones, except for instead of a violin player, there's a
Uh-huh.
player, there's a percussionist. So
Oh wow.
yeah,
That's a trip. Yeah,
yeah.
no, we weren't six. Six was in time, and I think people confuse. I think somewhere somebody read my bio wrong, and they're like, "So I was in a go-go band called In Time," and I don't know how that got out there, but yeah.
I think I might have been that person. I'm not
No,
sure.
no. It started before you. I
Oh,
promise.
before this, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, all right. So you come out to LA, and I just want to set the stage for people because I don't think a lot of people that are from home really understand how different of a world it is out here, and how, like, most people back home, they go to work in the morning and they get off at night, and they might play in a band and go to rehearsal and play a couple times on the weekend, and it's not really like a sort of an entire lifestyle like it is out here. And I myself, when I was here before, was not aware of the, hey, you have to be here for like a year or two kind of thing before things really start popping off.
Right.
Sounds like you had a much a smoother entrance to LA than I did the first time. But so when you decided that you were going to stay, like, who did you stay with? How did that work? Like, were
Um,
you,
yeah, when I came out here for the play, there was an apartment provided for me and Lizette, and we lived with a guy. He was a bass player from DC. His name was Keynote. So we had one bedroom, and Keynote had the other bedroom in North Hollywood. So that was like my introduction where we stayed. And then when I came back, like after I moved out here, I got a place. I through the city paper, the Los Angeles city paper. I rented a room from some guy in North Hollywood in a house. So that it was like $350 a month in a little house. Not a little house, but it was a little room in North Hollywood from
nice?
this crazy guy. Yeah, and then maybe after a year staying there, I got an apartment on Pico in Fairfax, and that's where I stayed for a long. I lived in that apartment for a long time. That was
Yeah,
the spot. Yeah,
that's the
every
yeah, that's the epicenter right there. Yeah,
yeah,
right.
that's the
Where it's
epicenter.
happening. Yeah,
Right down the street from the Mint and Little Ethiopia and all that stuff. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. No, yeah, we lived in North Hollywood when I first came out here this time too. So, well, my great
Yeah,
uncle. What's
North
that?
Hollywood is like the entry.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
like entry level Los Angeles. You
Yep.
come out here and you go straight to North Hollywood. Because I remember a couple people that I went to college with. Well, namely Gordon Campbell, drummer.
Mm-hmm.
He lived 2 blocks away from where me and Lizette were staying.
Mm-hmm.
And Gordon was I knew Gordon at Howard. And when Gordon came out to LA, I used to call him from my job, when I was working on Capitol Hill. And I'd be like, Gordon, what's going on? What you doing? Because he came out here to tour with Shy.
Oh, wow. I remember
So,
that.
yeah. And so Gordon would be like, yo, you just got to come out here, Si. You just got to come out here. And I was like, okay, I'm going to come. I'm going to come. And so when I got out here, Gordon was very monumental in introducing me to so many people out here. So, like, I remember there was a place called Luna Park where this band called the Polyester Players used to play. And and Gordon was in that band, and it was two drummers, and they were funk. They were like a funk 70s revival kind of thing. G Mac was the leader, and there was a lead singer named Pretty Terry, and another lead singer named Michi Man. Rest in peace, both of them. They passed away. But everybody used to go to this place on Tuesday nights. It was on Robertson and Santa Monica. Everybody would go to Luna Park to see Polyester Players. So I would go with Gordon, and he introduced me to like anybody who was anybody there at that club. Every producer. I mean, when I say everybody was there, everybody was there. It was a scene. And so one night, they needed a dancer. So I jumped up on stage, and from that moment on, I was the dancer for the band. They didn't even know I could sing.
Really?
Yeah. So I was just dancing, with the band, just kind of a hype girl, with my afro and, little short dress. And I remember people would tip me, like Too Short would come in there and throw some dollars up. And like it was a thing. And I was called Soul Sister #1.
Nice.
And I didn't get paid much. It was like $20 and 2 drink tickets, and I was happy, But that was kind of how that was one of the ways that I sort of got in,
Nice.
Just yeah.
So for most people, it's they come out and like the first year or two, it's really a struggle. It's like trying to figure out how to get within the right clique and like meet certain people, because most people a lot of people out here are very friendly on the surface, and but when it's like, oh yeah, let's link up, let's do coffee, yeah, and then like you call them and they never call you back, or they just flake out or whatever. So so there's a lot of that in your first year or two before people start to realize that you know what you're talking about, or know what you're doing, or have some talent or whatever. So it sounds like you were spared at least some of the brunt of that. So that's good.
I was spared a lot of that, and I think it was really because Gordon introduced me to a lot of like the people he would work with. You know what I mean? So I immediately started working with a producer outfit called Something for the People. I don't know if you remember that group, but it
sounds familiar. I don't remember what they did, but it does sound.
Well, it was a guy named Sauce, a guy named Fuzzy, and a guy named Rashad Rowe. And they had just produced a bunch of songs on Brandy's first album. So when I came out here, they were hot, and they were also working with a guy who was about to come out named Eric Benet. So Sauce really took me under his wings and helped groom me as a songwriter and a producer. And then Something for the People, like a couple of years after I was working with them, they had a big hit. Boy, you never know another love as good as this. You remember that?
I do remember that, and I'm pretty excited. I didn't even have to ask you to sing, and we already got a little sample without me even having to ask. So, nice.
So when that song hit, that was Trina and Tamra with Something for the People. So they were touring, but then Trina and Tamra did their own group. So that Something for the People needed a singer to come out on the road with them. So I went on the road with them. But yeah, like I didn't really have to deal with a lot of that sort of fake LA thing that you hear about,
Yeah.
I was really lucky in that most of the people that I dealt with were just down ass people. And for the most part, it seemed like everybody I dealt with were cats from other places. Something for the People's from Oakland.
Right.
Gordon and anybody Gordon introduced me to, Gordon's from upstate New York, but everybody he introduced me to, they were from DC. Big Tone and Tim Carmen and Yeah, and Shawnee Baby had also moved out here, so she had introduced me to some people, you know. So it
Mhm.
seemed like everybody I was working with were folks from back home anyway. It's weird how that works.
Nice, nice.
Yeah, yeah.
So how did they? So who was the first? Who was the first person you started singing with? Was it something with people or
It
what?
was Kenny. It was Kenny Lattimore. That was
Oh,
my
that's right.
first
No, I'm
name.
sorry, you did say that. Okay. And so
Yeah,
how do we get from Kenny Lattimore to Whitney Houston?
from Kenny to Whitney. So what happened? And let me shout out some of the people in the chat. I just clicked the chat and I see people. So hey, official BNA. Hey, Karma. What's up, Michael Jones? Hey, Rodney. Um, so the Whitney Houston story. My girl Charlotte Gibson, another singer who Gordon introduced me to. She and I had become really tight. And so she was auditioning. She had gotten a call to audition for Whitney Houston. And she was like, hey, Sai, you know, can you take me to the mall so I can get an outfit, you know, to wear for this audition for Whitney Houston? And I was like, okay, I'll take you to the mall. Charlotte didn't have a car. And this was before, you know, Uber and Lyft.
Right, right.
And people from California at the time, they just didn't think to call a cab. Like that wasn't part of their lexicon, you know? So they just called friends who had cars. That
Right.
was weird to me because, you know, calling a cab is what we do, or, you
Right.
know, what we used
Oh,
to do.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, so I took her to the mall, helped her get an outfit, brought her back home. Boom, I go back home. So then she calls me again and was like, hey, can you come pick me up and take me to this audition for Whitney Houston? And I was like, girl, okay. All right. So I went and picked her up, took her over to Center Stage and in Burbank, and, you know, dropped her off. Good luck, girl. All right. And I go back home. Malachi, she called again. And she's like, hey, can you come pick me up? And I was like, oh my God, girl, you are
Coordinating
wearing
all of
me
this at
out.
the beginning.
Oh my God. So I went and picked her up. Um, I went, parked the car, went inside center staging. I remember because they were in Studio One and it was just Charlotte and a man. And she introduced me to him and she said, Ricky, this is Cy Smith. Cy, this is Ricky Minor. And I was like, oh, nice to meet you. And she said, and Ricky Minor was Whitney's music director. So Charlotte said, Ricky, Cy is really good. She can really sing. You should hear her. And Ricky was like, okay, do you want her to take your job? She's like, no. And he's like, I'm just playing. I'm just playing. So he said, cool, let's hear you right now. And Malachi, he auditioned me right there on the spot. There was a boom box and there was 3 mics set up still because he had just finished auditioning all these people for the gig. And so, but there was only 2 singers there. And I didn't know what he was going to do, you know? But he said, uh, let's sing I'm Every Woman. Charlotte, you sing the middle, Cy, you take the bottom, and no, he said, Charlotte, you take the top, Cy, you take the middle, I'll sing the bottom. And
Mhm.
Ricky got on the mic and sang the bottom, and he pressed play on the tape or the cassette or whatever or CD, I don't know, and the track started playing, and we jumped right into the hook. Now I hadn't prepared for this audition because I wasn't thinking I would audition,
Right.
but my life prepared me for it. You know what I mean? Like I knew those background parts because that's all I ever used to do was sing backup. You know, I sang
Right.
backup in Royalty Queens. I sang parts in Time. I sang in every choir I could be in. You know,
Mhm.
so so that's what I did. So we jumped right into it. I'm every woman. It's all in me.
There you go.
Anything you want done, baby. I do it naturally. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Right? So I knew that. And then he was like, cool, that's great. All right, let's do it again. Let's switch parts. Sai, you take the top. Charlotte, you take the middle. I'll stay on the bottom. And we switched parts. And I did it again, right?
Mhm.
I'm every woman. It's all in me. Whatever it is.
Right. So
Right.
you just knew all the harmonies
I just
already.
knew all the harmonies. And then we went, then he said, great, well, let's go to the bridge. I break it. You know, just ask me. Right. And we did all of that. No matter. You know, and he was like, okay, that's really good. The next time I need a soprano, I'll call you. And I was like, okay. And we walked out. I was like, Charlotte, man, that was mad cool. Thank you. Thank you for that. And she was like, of course, girl, like whatever. And I didn't think anything of it really, other than that was a really cool thing for a fellow singer to do.
Right.
Um, I didn't think he would call me. I knew who was on the Whitney Houston gig. They weren't going to leave that gig. Why would they ever leave that gig?
Right.
Next thing you know, 2 months later, I get a call from Ricky Minor. And he's like, hey, how would you like to sing with Whitney Houston uh, live on HBO from Constitution Hall?
No pressure.
And I was like, what? And it turned out that the other singer, I think, was going back to the Luther Vandross gig. I think that's what happened. So yeah, so that's how I got the gig. And that next month I came back to DC to rehearse for 1 month to do my very first concert with Whitney Houston in my hometown at Constitution Hall, live on HBO.
How was that?
It was amazing because both of my parents were in the audience. Um, I had never played Constitution Hall before, and it was Whitney Houston. Like it was like a trifecta of banananess. Like, this is crazy.
So this is the lesson, people. If you have a friend that asks you in the same day to take you to 3 separate places, or to take them to 3 separate places, just do it, because
Just do it.
yeah, you might end up singing with one of the greatest singers in the world. Yeah, and learn every harmony part of every song for every singer that you want to know.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Don't just sit around singing the leads.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So, were you already singing with somebody at the time? Did you have to like stop in the same way that this person stopped singing with Whitney to go back with?
No,
Okay.
I didn't at the time. It just worked out perfectly. Like the stars were aligned because Kenny Lattimore had kind of calmed, like his tour had kind of ended. And this is when people were doing tours for albums. So if they didn't have a current project out, they weren't really touring, I feel like now people tour all the time,
Right.
which I get, But yeah, so Kenny was chilling and it just worked out. So I didn't have to quit any gigs or anything like that.
So that was the next thing. So there wasn't anybody in between Kenny Lattimore and Whitney. It was just...
Yeah, no, there wasn't anybody in between. I was doing wedding receptions and bar mitzvahs and stuff. We call it, casuals. I was doing casuals. Huh?
Yeah, gotta pay their rent. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay. So then how and when did the Hollywood Records thing come about?
So that came about around 1998. There was a new division at Hollywood Records, the urban division. And I can't remember everybody's names, but that's where I got pulled into Hollywood. And I remember being really excited because the guys who were running it used to manage something for the people. So I felt like, okay, these are guys I can kind of trust, It didn't pan out, and I don't blame them. I blame Hollywood Records, because at the end of the day, what really happened was, you've heard the phrase, "They want our rhythm but not our blues."
Yes, I know exactly what you mean.
So I feel like Hollywood really wanted urban records, which is just a polite way of saying black, which I don't know. I don't think black is impolite, but I feel like they wanted black music, but they just didn't want the black faces that went with it. You know, they wanted the black sound. They just wanted somebody else to do it.
Familiar.
So, but you know the story. So they had me. They had a whole bunch of artists pulled in, and they released one single on me, "Gladly," which was the name of that single. But my whole album, it was just always something that, we can't put it out right now. There's this, that, and the other. I remember the publicity guy at Hollywood Records telling me to my face, "I don't know how to write an urban bio, so I'm going to get someone else to do that." I was like, "An urban bio? What language is that written in?"
Right. I mean, it's English, motherfucker. What's wrong? I've ever heard.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So it was weird, but the good thing that came out of this situation was, when I first got signed, they asked me, "Who are some of the top producers you want to work with?" And I remember saying Ali Shaheed Muhammad from A Tribe Called Quest.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
Yeah. Who else? Well, Sauce and I were already working together. I knew I wanted whatever he and I did together to be on the record, and and I think I said the Roots. Um, so I ended up working, but there was like two things that happened. I did an album with uh with Sauce and Ali Shaheed, and then a couple of other producers who they kind of picked, but they were dope. I wasn't mad. But then when the album didn't come out, they asked me to sort of update the album. So that's when I went back into the studio and I worked with Scott Storch, because that was the Roots, Scott Storch and Questlove. Um, and that's when I met James Poyser and did some work with him. No, I met James Poyser a different way, but I ended up working with James anyway, and Victor Duplay, and there
You
was
know, don't feel shy about dropping any names or anything. You can talk about all the people. Like just get,
look.
I just work with stop with love and Ali Chang, nobody, working.
Stop it. Stop it. Shout out to Kalena. She remembers gladly. Hey girl. And Top Notch. Oh, she said it's good that I have a good memory. I'm working on it because some of these years are a blur. But yeah, I worked with a bunch of people. And the songs I was really proud of are the ones that I, did with Ali Shaheed and there was another guy named Gypsy, Eddie Gypsy Stokes, that I worked with. But I met Gypsy back when I was doing some songwriting at Dr. Dre's studio for Dawn Robinson when she went solo or
Mm-hmm.
was going solo.
Yep.
And that's how I met Eddie Stokes because I was over at Record One working with Dr. Dre and Eddie Stokes all the time. So yeah, it's kind of crazy because during like while I was doing Whitney, between I was just kind of I had my hand in a lot of pots, Malachi. Like I was doing a lot.
Well, that's good. I
you
mean,
know.
the purpose of this show is, I mean, there's multiple purposes for it, but one of the purposes is to kind of there's a large amount of misinformation in the go-go community about how the greater music industry works, and
Mm,
there's a lot of somebody's supposed to put me on, and if only I can work with this person, everything would just be all right and everything would just magically happen. And so I think it's really important what you're saying right now. You're literally listing off some of the most influential producers of our time, and and you're obviously an amazing singer and an amazing artist, and
thank
I
you.
don't think you could put together a more perfect situation, and it didn't work. And that's just the reality of this industry, and it's incumbent upon people like yourself, which you absolutely been doing, to say, okay, that didn't work, let me try the next thing. And I think go-go just sort of gets in this, especially with I don't know if you got a chance to check out the documentary, but there's just a lot of complaining going on. Well, why wasn't this person? I mean, neither of the. I mean, Northeast Groovers was mentioned for 2 seconds, and Mambo Sauce wasn't mentioned at all. And yeah, I could feel a certain kind of way about that. But okay, what good is complaining about it going to do? I'm just going to go on and try to make the next thing happen, and that's
Right.
exactly what you did. And it's a very important lesson, I think, for people that want to be successful in this industry. There is no pot of gold kind of thing. It's like it's an evolving and continual process.
Yes.
So on that note, how did you? So obviously things didn't work out with the Hollywood urban division. So
Right.
how did you transition out of that? Did you,
Yeah.
were you able to secure your master's back, or did you have to start all over again, or how did that go?
I kind of had to start all over at the time, and it took a second to find my footing,
Mhm.
But like I said, I was kind of working, doing other stuff, acting and doing a lot of TV work. So financially, I was okay,
Right.
but mentally, it took a second. It took a second to sort of get my footing and get regrounded,
Hmm.
and then pick up the pieces and go. Um, so I was I was like, maybe I should just start doing some shows in town, right? So Macy Gray had me and Macy were friends, and she used to do this thing at this little coffee shop on Saturday nights called the wee hours, and it was from 1 to 5 in the morning on Saturday nights. And Macy was getting ready to blow up. This was before she blew up.
Yeah.
And so I would go to the wee hours, because I forgot how I met Macy, but I met her, and like I think I sang on her first album, and she was like, Sai, you gotta keep the wee hours going, because I'm about to go on the road. So
Oh my God, that was so.
no, just keep it going.
Like
Keep it going.
your voice.
It's gonna be dope. Just keep it going. And so I started doing the wee hours, and it was just me and a DJ named Phys Ed, and I played keyboards. I had a Rhodes, and a drummer named Tycoon, and yeah, and
You have
so
you have to bring the Rhodes every week, or was it just
yep.
say that?
I can't even remember how I did that. I think the first few times I did the wee hours, my man Herman Jackson might have played with me, keyboardist for Whitney Houston. But then after that, I had bought this Rhodes on the recycler for $350, and I would bring that every week.
You are a G.
And and that was at this coffee shop called Lucy Florence. They were over on Santa Monica and Wilcox. Then I started getting a little following. So then I was like, well, I want to perform at actual venues. So I sent my little press package all over the place, and wherever I could, take it. And I didn't really get any callbacks, or I got a callback to do, like those pay to play gigs, you know what I mean? And I was like, I'm not gonna.
Yeah. Hey, for you kids that don't know what taking a press pack around is, that's when we used to have to actually buy a glossy folder and get our
yep.
Print it out and write a bio and put all of it in the there was no this is pre MySpace or
yep. Electronic press kit.
Yeah, man, I can't tell you how many physical press kits I built in my entire life. It makes me nauseous thinking about it.
You know the struggle, my brother.
Yes. Yes. Very
so nobody would really book me, and I was sort of like, okay. And I get it. They didn't really understand where I fit, in the spectrum of music. And at the time, and it's kind of still like this, but at the time it was very much like you're either R&B or you're not. You're either R&B and rap or you're not. And Black people had to be that. And what I was doing was very much, it was gray. It was a gray area, I was a weird chick. And so so people didn't really understand. So then Lucy Florence moved to Leimert Park, and I said, you know what? I'm just gonna stay at Lucy Florence, and instead of doing it in the middle of the night, I'll just see if they'll let me do something at, normal club hours. And that's what we did. And so I started an event. Basically, my theory was, if I can't be booked at a venue, I'm going to build the venue. So I started an event at Lucy Florence called Bitchcraft. And Bitchcraft was a place where I would feature women in the performing arts, and then I would do a set at the end of the night. Bam. Nice. So I had all kinds of performers. I had comedians, I had actresses that would do monologues, I had dancers that would put on, a piece, or whatever. And then I would play at the end of the night. And my girl DJ Spark, she spun in between sets, and it was dope. And it grew from being 50 people showing up to 150 people. And that was a big thing for me at the time. So as it was growing, I was like, I need to put out a CD. So I just put 5 songs together and printed up 1,000 CDs. And it was a CD called One Like Me. And
can I stop you for 1 second? Because for people that aren't familiar with LA, can you explain the cultural significance of Leimert Park?
So Leimert Park is like the Black cultural hub of Los Angeles. That's where you're going to find the Black bookstores, the Black coffee shops, um, the African inspired boutiques, Sika, the jeweler, all of that kind of stuff is in Leimert Park, the world stage. Um, that's where you get your Kamasi Washingtons and your Tavis Martins and all of those cats. That's where they played. Leimert Park, so that's where Lucy Florence moved to, the Barbara Morrison Jazz Center, like all of that stuff. All of those folks come out of Leimert Park.
And then real quick, I want to, because you went over it really fast, but I want to really focus on something that you said. You said, these people are not going to book me, so I'm going to figure it out myself. And then you said, if a venue, I mean, I guess it's sort of the same thing, but if a venue is not going to book me, then I'm going to build the venue. And that's the hustler mentality, and that's what this entire industry is built off of. And I think, and I mean, you've already been singing for Whitney Houston at this time. You've already had a major record deal. You're already singing with other national artists. You've got your own thing going on, and you're still going to this coffee shop to build it into 150. You know what I mean? There's just really a big disconnect, I think, in the go-go community with, somebody thinks, oh, you sing with Whitney Houston, you balling, you're done. You're
right.
Everything's perfect. And it just, that isn't the way it is. You still have to hustle to make things happen. And so, I mean, obviously you were doing that and being very successful at it. And I just wanted to point that out and give you your applause for making that happen. So sorry to interrupt your story, but I wanted to give you your flowers.
No, thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And I'm glad you reiterated that, because I forget sometimes, because when I was doing it, I wasn't even thinking about it. It was just a sort of instinctual thing for me. I think so many doors have been not open to me in my life that it's instinctual for me to just kick open another one instead, and go around, and find my own way. Kalina, she said she remembers. She said Lucy Florence with the twins, Ron and Richard. Yes, indeed. So I printed out that CD and I was selling the CDs, and that was my foray into independent soul music. Like, I didn't know anything. There was nobody really doing it out here except for like me. There was a rapper named Medusa, Kim Hill, who went on to sing with the Black Eyed Peas later. This was before the Black Eyed Peas. You know what I mean? So we, so there was really no there was no way for me to know. There was no network, I had to really build from the ground up, what we were doing, what I was doing, and then I, found a way, and I got more people involved, and I started making more, I made another CD, which was the Cyberspace Social. That was like, the first CD was 2001, just to give you a time frame. Cyberspace Social was like 2004. But by that time, that's when I finally started getting to the Temple Bar, because that's what they saw. They knew what I was doing at Lucy Florence.
Well, no, it had to be before that, because I was back home by 2004. I'm going to interrupt you one more time. I'm sorry, but I'm going to give you your flowers again. Everybody that's watching, when I lived in LA, the first time was 2002 to 2003. And I went to see Cy Smith's group called Star 69.
Wow.
At the Temple Bar with my good friend Gary Askew, who is, I thought he was on here earlier, but maybe he's not anymore. And they played with a band called Fourth Avenue Jones. And I met Cy briefly, and I met Shawnee Baby, and I told her that I had played with Northeast Groovers, which I had for like the previous year or two or whatever. And she looked at me like I was crazy. Like, you did not play with Northeast Groovers. And the vibe that you all created at the Temple Bar in Santa Monica,
Wow.
and the makeup actually of the band Fourth Avenue Jones was what inspired me to go back home and create Mambo Sauce, because I was like,
Wow.
well, they can do this in DC. I mean, I'm sorry, in LA. Then like I know that there are musicians that can play like this in DC, but we don't do stuff like this, and I want to
Right.
do that. And
Right.
so yes, I want to publicly
Oh.
say that Cy Smith and her events were responsible for the formation of Mambo Sauce, which has the last go-go Billboard hit in the past 20 years. So it's all because of you. So
Oh my God, that's so cool. Thank you for sharing that.
of
I
course,
had no idea that we were the inspiration for Mambo Sauce.
100%, 100%. Yeah, yeah. I was like, all right, get me home. Originally, I was trying to bring people out here. I was trying to bring Big
Uh-huh.
Doug and Kyrie and keyboard Chris out here to do it.
Uh-huh.
But they didn't
Yeah.
come. So I was like, all right, well, I guess I got to go back home. Because you were talking about finding your place in the city paper. I was putting ads in the city paper to try to find people that listen to that new go-go or could play go-go. I
Wow.
was getting I would get back these it would be like a 40-year-old white dude, which is funny because I'm a 40-year-old white dude now, but I would think like, yeah, try that. And I was like, no, that's not really what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to make something that sounds current, and so that's why I ended up deciding to go back home.
That is so funny.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's a great story.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Well,
You never know who you're inspiring. So that's really kind of heartwarming to hear.
yes, you
Thank you for
definitely
that.
inspired me. So thank you very much for that. I appreciate it.
Aw.
Do my best to not continue interrupting your story. So
Oh, it's fine. It's fine. I really wasn't saying nothing, but so yeah, you're probably right about the timeline. But between 2001 and 2004, a singer named Frank McComb took me on the road with him to Japan that was my first time in Japan. So that might have been 2003 or 4, 3 going into 4. But anyway, I was really just starting to cut my teeth, at this point, really, really embracing who I was as a solo artist. You know what I mean? Like that whole time, it took between 1998 and 2003 to really, really understand and understand who I was vocally and understand who I was artistically. So Frank took me on the road with him, Frank McComb, and it was cool because what he had me do was open the show, playing my own songs, and then I would just join him and play a little percussion and sing backup, and it was perfect, because his band played for me, and I played piano. Like he just pushed me out there, like go. But it was cool because it forced me to do a lot of growing really fast, So by the time I came back, and when I went over there to Japan, I was selling a version of the Cyberspace Social that I printed up myself, So when I came back, I really went hard, as an independent artist, and that's when things really started to jump off for me, in that regard, and I was getting calls from across the country, to do things at different venues, and again, sometimes things panned out, sometimes things didn't, but like you said, you can't be prone to giving up out here. You have to be prone to finding another way. Like this is not the industry where one door closes and you go, ah, man, and give up. You have to go, okay, I know that door closed, but I think there's a window on the other side.
Right.
So I'm gonna build a ladder and go through the window. And that's that's kind of the mentality I think that I had.
Mm-hmm.
and still kind of have, because because it doesn't necessarily get any easier once you're in either,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
still work all the time,
yeah,
all the time.
yeah.
So, from with all of the people that you have sung with, all of the, um, from the Whitney Houstons to the Kenny Lap to whoever, Macy Gray, whoever, that are household names.
Hmm.
What is if there is one, what is the through line that you notice about the way they approach their career, the way they approach their music, the way they, just basically like their character, I guess I would say, that you feel like is present in all of them,
Mm.
that, maybe the thing that is able to keep them successful?
I think what I definitely there's a couple of different answers to this question because there's a musical answer,
Yep.
like a musical slash performing answer,
Mhm.
and then there's the sort of philosophical answer. And
Right.
I don't know if the two necessarily are, interchangeable, but like musically and performing wise, I definitely learned from a lot of the, people that I worked with how to trust the band that you have hired to do the job that you hired them to do, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and that is so that you can be free enough on stage to 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 languish in the song, and to pull other things from the song. You know what I mean? Like if
Mm-hmm.
you hire a bunch of people and then you don't trust them to do it, you're never really in it. You're
Mm-hmm.
just thinking about what you don't hear and what you need.
Right.
But like Whitney and Shaka and all of those folks, like they hire people that they trust will do what they need to do, and then they can just be in the zone the whole time, you know. So that's how I've learned to, hire my musicians,
Nice.
Um, yeah. Um, what was I gonna say?
You,
Now,
you
in
said there
Phil's,
was a philosophical answer too.
yeah, I think that you can very much tell how an artist is from how the band and crew are. So like if the artist is like super cool and just super nice and very respectful and all that kind of stuff, it starts at the top. The whole band is like that. And if somebody is kind of out of pocket, somebody else is going to kind of check them. And it makes for an organization that is all around like a great organization to be a part of.
Mhm.
And there are only a couple of instances where I've ever been a part of a band or whatever and like, oh, this is awful. For the most part, everybody's been so good that it starts at the top, that everybody, no matter what level we are, what tier we are in the organization, we're all like that.
So you don't have to name any names, but the people that you worked with, or the artists that you worked with that were difficult, are they people that have still enjoyed a long career?
One of them for sure
Hmm.
has enjoyed a long career, but I think that person was really just going through a really dark time
Hmm.
and didn't know yet how to deal with it, and how to navigate through whatever was causing them to be so dark with everybody else, you know.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, but I think once they work that out, from what I've heard, their organization is a lot better.
Gotcha. The reason I
You,
asked that was because I was never a good enough player to really play with anybody of note. But I mean, outside of go-go, I should say.
uh
But I booked a lot. I ran entertainment at Live Casino, Maryland Live Casino, for 3.5 years, and booked everybody from Michael Bolton to Jose Feliciano, Boys to Men, Salt and Pepper, whoever. And
yeah,
the common theme that I noticed, because I met all the artists and their team, and everybody, their band and their crew,
uh
and not only that, but prior to that, I I worked in radio. I worked at WPGC, and I worked at
Oh yeah.
97.5
Yeah.
in Vegas. And at both in Vegas, part of my job was to greet all the artists that came to the station.
Uh-huh.
And at PGC, I didn't have to greet them, but I dealt with them. And for some reason, my boss always wanted us to take pictures, and I've never really been a person that wants to take pictures with
Right.
others. But so I did get to meet some of them, and the commonality that I noticed is that I always tell the story of when LL Cool J came to the radio station in Vegas. He treated the intern with the same respect as he treated the program director.
Yep.
And even though maybe he hasn't had a hit song in a while, he's still hosting the Grammys and acting and he
Right. Right.
has a long career. And almost every artist that I've met, like Lionel Richie came to WPGC to interview
Yeah.
with Donnie Simpson. He was there 30 minutes early. He had one person with him, no
Right.
entourage. He was the sweetest man you'll ever meet
Right.
in your life. And Lionel Richie can sell out an arena. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So it just and this is not just geared towards people in the go-go community, but even just in the independent music community overall, there seems to be a misnomer that you have to be this hard ass and you have to be just a jerk to everybody. And
Right.
and even if you don't think you have to be, sometimes the ego level just gets so high. And the thing that I notice is the most successful artists that I've ever been around are don't seem to have big egos at all, or
At all.
they don't. Even if they do, they don't exude them,
Right.
in public space. So
Yeah.
So I just wanted to see if your experience was the same as mine, because obviously you work with them much more closely than I did.
Absolutely. It's pretty much the same. And I got to say this too, from being on both sides of it. When I say both sides, as a supporting vocalist and as the artist, whose name is on the marquee, sometimes we just have bad days, and that's a thing too. So now in retrospect, I try to look back and see, think, well, maybe that person was having a bad day, or maybe whatever. But I think that a lot of times people forget that artists are humans too,
Yep.
and they're dealing with the same things everybody else has to deal with. They got to get their kids to school, or they got to put their mama in, hospice, or they got to, they got things, and sometimes even more so than other people, because sometimes their whole families are leaning on them, which which I think we all saw play out in real time with a megastar, that I won't name, but a couple megastars, But that being said, I think I really learned from the artists that I worked with some wonderful lessons on how to allow the music to free me, and then how to spread that feeling of liberation to my audience, and to the people around me. Yeah.
So we were talking a little bit beforehand about, obviously this is a platform about go-go music, and you mentioned that no matter what you do, there's always some sprinkle of go-go music. So as someone who has been in LA and away from DC for 20 plus years,
Yeah.
what is it that's—
Don't say that out loud. 20 plus years, Jesus.
I mean, 1998 is 2020. I don't know. I mean, I'm figuring people can do that math. But so what is it that's still, to this day? Because I went to go see the event that you did at Sayers Club. You did a go-go with Shawnee Baby and some of the guys from the Jacksons, Sid and those guys, and Xavier from Prince's band on keys. And so what is it that still, after all this time, connects you to go-go? Because theoretically you could just be like, I'm not worried about that music anymore. I'm off doing my thing in LA,
I could never be disconnected from go-go completely. There's no way. It's part of my DNA at this point. Like, so much of my schooling in terms of contemporary music was through go-go. Like, you know, I didn't even start playing keyboard. I mean, I didn't even start playing contemporary keys until I joined that go-go band. You
Mm,
know, before that, I was only playing classical. You
okay.
know, I didn't start singing contemporary music for the most part until I finished high school and joined that go-go band. You know, like, so so my musical schooling in terms of contemporary music is definitely through go-go. And then, to expand that answer, my jazz schooling is through Chuck Brown. Like,
Right.
that's my introduction to standards, you know.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, there's always going to be some element, I think, of go-go, whether it's just hitting the pocket for a quick second, if I have a drummer who knows how to do it, and
Right.
or there's the call and response, that I'll probably do. And a lot of go-go is so much rooted in just West African traditions, which I think, again, this is a DNA thing, is is way deeper than an aesthetic. I think it's just a natural sort of thing that 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 we do, you know. And if you look at there's a beautiful chart that they made at the Shed in New York on sort of the just Black music in America, right? Just and it's just all the facets and branches and all of that, and you see where go-go is on the chart. It's a tree. I think it's a tree.
Mhm.
Um, and you see the things, the other genres that are sort of on that branch. And and you've traveled, like, there's so many similarities in what's it called? The the, the New Orleans thing.
Bounce or like second line. I can't.
Second
I'm
line, like
drawing a
second
line.
line
I'm
stuff.
drawing a blank too, yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
there's so many similarities in second line and go-go and in funk for that matter. So yeah, I think a part of me can't help it, and then a part of me feels obliged to make sure that there's a thread that always links back to where I come from in my music, you
Right.
know?
Well,
Yeah.
so how do like musicians that you know that are not from DC, for example, like the guys, the guys from the Jacksons and Xavier that that played at your last thing, like they're not from DC, at least that I'm aware of. How do they? I mean, do they just do that gig because they get called for a gig, or do they have like an appreciation for the sound? I mean, I booked, RC, RC, who's Erica's
Hmm.
MD, and Snoop is my client. RC and the Grits is my booking
Hmm.
client, and I booked them at the Mint. And I remember standing outside in the back with, I always forget his name, and this is terrible. He doesn't play with the band all the time, but he was playing the NPC that night,
Okay.
and we were standing out in the back, and I found out that he was the guy that produced On and On for Erica Badu, which is like one of
Oh,
the most pivotal songs in my music, in developing my musical taste.
sure.
When the conversation came around to the fact that I played in a go-go band in North,
Uh-huh.
he like lost his mind. And then when I was in New York, I was in New York at Quad Studios with a friend of mine. Are you familiar with the band Lettuce?
Yeah, of course. I
Yeah.
know that the bass player used to play in my band,
Oh, did he
Eric
really? I
Cooley.
didn't know that.
Yeah.
So I'm in the studio with Adam Deitch and
Yes.
Beans, and
Schmeez.
and like, first of all, these guys will destroy me musically. I think Adam was on the cover of Modern Drummer like a month later. This is back when he was playing with Average White Band and John Schofield,
Oh,
who's
wow.
one of my favorite jazz guitar players of all time. And they just were talking to me about Stomp Dog the whole time. Like, they were like I was the star because I played in a go-go band. So it's just this weird thing where like musicians that play in go-go bands are
Hmm.
like, yeah, I'm just playing this go-go thing to make some money, but really I'm working on my R&B or my hip hop project on the side. Meanwhile,
Right.
these heavyweight musicians that play in other genres of music are like, Go-Go is the craziest shit I've ever heard.
Right.
Where do you think that comes from? Like, why does that happen? Do you have any insight?
I think that there is a respect for an art form that is so insular that it doesn't have to leave that city to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Like, there's something about, like, I think people, like, the reason why Go-Go really hasn't blown up, in my opinion, when I say, blown up, everybody's like, Go-Go about to blow up, because Jill Scott made a record or whatever, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Every 20 years, Go-Go's about to blow up.
Yep.
But to me, the reason why it hasn't is because Go-Go bands don't have to leave DC to play.
Yep.
People come and see them every week, 2 and 3 times a week for some of the bands, and they can make a living right there. So I think there is a very, people who aren't musicians who aren't in it understand the rarity of that.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are so few art forms where that happens.
Right.
I can't even think of two. Right. Not in America.
Right.
So there's a respect for that, and I think that because musicians don't have to leave, there's a purity that kind of stays in the form. You know what I mean? Because it's almost like I don't know. It's almost like getting coffee from a place, and that's the only place that particular coffee bean grows.
Yeah.
It has a taste that can't be reproduced. And so Go-Go has a thing that it hasn't been reproduced because the DNA is all from the same tribe of people, like right there.
Right.
Yeah. So I think musicians who aren't in it just admire that, and can really see it and appreciate it for what it is. Yeah, but Go-Go musicians don't see it because it's like trying to describe to a fish what wet is.
Right. Yeah, and it's sort of like the grass is greener on the other side kind of thing, where the other musicians are looking at it like, wow, you guys can just stay at home and play 4 nights a week, and then the Go-Go musicians are looking like, yeah, but you guys are on tour, like doing it,
Right.
and there's pros and cons to both sides. The only thing I would say is I pushed back a little bit. I think yesterday. Did you watch the TV One documentary?
Not yet.
Gotcha. Well, there's a very smart lady on there named Natalie Hopkinson, who I'm hoping to have on the show pretty soon. She's a professor at Howard, but she's been very outspoken and a big part of the Don't Mute DC movement. And she made a comment about the fact that Go-Go is a, obviously predominantly Black economy where the Black dollar can circulate, throughout the economy, and that, contrasted with hip hop or other forms of popular urban music, that, they're sort of, I guess, diluted by having to deal with white corporate entities and, things like how you had to deal with Hollywood records, etc., stuff like that.
Right.
The only thing that I would push back on that slightly is that I can count on 2 hands the amount of Go-Go musicians that make full-time livings playing Go-Go. Almost every single Go-Go musician has a day job. So it's really like more of a hobby kind of thing. Yeah, you know what I mean? So
yeah.
That's the only thing. But I mean, having said that, you're 100% right, because it's an extremely intoxicating drug. Like when I put Mambo Sauce together, I was very clear from the very beginning, we are not playing any weekly shows at all. The first tenet was it's the only playing original music, and the second tenet was we're not doing any weekly shows. The goal of this is, to be, the No Doubt of to do what No Doubt did for ska music, to do that for Go-Go music. That was the goal, because I knew that once you start getting that, $200 a night or $150 a night or whatever, it becomes extremely difficult to break out of that cycle.
You see it. Yep.
Yeah. So let's see. How aware, if at all, have any of the like bigger art, like does Macy Gray know what go-go is? Did Whitney Houston
Oh
know
yeah.
or
I
respect?
mean,
Like, did you ever have a
when it
conversation with them?
yeah, cats, people definitely know or knew or know, um and and sometimes even on the road, like if I came back to DC, I would bring cats from whatever band I was in to Tacoma or wherever, to
Mhm.
see a show. And like jazz dudes,
Mhm, mhm.
and they'd be like, "Yo, this
Right.
is crazy," Um, and when I did my little go-go shows here in LA, you were asking like, how did I find cats who played it, or like
Mhm.
usually my drummer and my percussionist either were from DC or they had lived in DC for a while. So like when you saw the show at Sayers, the drummer, he's from Virginia.
Okay, I didn't know
Yeah, and my percussionist, he passed away a couple of years ago, but he was from DC.
that. Okay.
Yeah, so we always that part always had to be, for real, for real.
Right. That's what the basis of it is. Yeah, that's
Right.
I get in not arguments, but sort of discussions with certain people about what the definition of go-go is. And my contention is that it's based on the percussion. And because a lot of people say, oh, well, it's the call and response, it's the fact that you don't stop. I'm like, well, if that's the case, then how come the first time you heard It's Love by Jill Scott or One Thing by A. Marie or Crazy in Love by Beyonce, the first thing you said is that's go-go. None of that
Yeah.
other stuff was there. The only thing that was
Right.
there was the percussion. So my contention is that if the percussion is there, it doesn't matter what else is going on.
Hmm.
It's go-go.
Right. No, that's absolutely that's accurate. I don't even know how anybody would argue against that part.
I, you would be surprised. You would be surprised. So what are you working on now? What's next? What
Um,
can you check out?
so I'm working on a couple of things. I have a single coming out with my good friend Rachel Edcroft. She's a keyboard player, and she and I both used to tour. Well, I still tour with Chris Bodie, but she used to also play keys with Chris Bodie.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, she wrote this song, and she asked me to kind of help finish writing it, and we I recorded it, and she really liked what this all happened during quarantine. And she was like, "Hey, let's do a video. This is dope." And so I shot a video. And anyway, long story short, it's really amazing, and we're going to release that in about 3 weeks. Um, so I'm very excited about. It's called Perfect Love.
Nice.
Um, and then I have an EP that I'm doing with. Do you know Zoe Malachi?
Lorenzo?
Yeah, Zoe from Detroit that lives in DC now, or Silver Spring that plays with the Foreign Exchange.
Oh no, I don't. I thought you were talking about. There's Lorenzo Johnson that's out here. He's from DC and
Oh,
he's here now. He used to play with Lettucey. That's what I thought you were talking
oh, okay, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. I know that guy. I know who that is.
about.
Okay, Zoe is from Detroit originally, and he and I met. Long story short, through the Foreign Exchange, and we both used to tour with Foreign Exchange.
Yeah. Mhm.
But he and I make a lot of music together. So he and I have an EP that we will probably release like around August. Um, that that we mostly recorded during this quarantine. I think I
Mhm.
recorded one song right before the quarantine started. But
Nice.
so I'm excited about that. He and I do a lot of music together. I just released uh, a video for the title track of my album. Sometimes a rose will grow in concrete. So I just released that video like 3 weeks ago. But I'm saying what's on the plate because some people might not have seen that yet. So
Where
go
can
check
people
that
check
video
that?
out. On my YouTube channel, youtube.com/SciSmith69, which is the YouTube channel I established when I was in Star 69.
I'm
So
about to
yeah,
put it up. There you
yeah,
go.
it's dope. It's shot in. Oh, thank you for that. You quit. We shot that in Tanzania, so it's a really beautiful video. And I'm just doing virtual live shows on the internets, as it were.
Yeah, I caught a little bit of the one the other night. It was amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, that was Homeboy on Keys, Xavier from Prince.
Yep.
We had a good time with that. So I'll probably be doing a couple more online shows. Sometimes with him. Sometimes it might just be me playing keys. We'll
Mhm.
see.
Awesome.
And and of course, people can buy my album.
Boom.
I got vinyl,
Where can they buy
and
your album? SiSmith.com?
yeah, but the direct link to the store is cyberspace.bigcartel.com.
Okay, gotcha. Yep.
Yeah. So I got CDs, vinyl, t-shirts, all kinds of stuff. You know how it is. It's the hustle. The hustle ain't stopped.
Listen, people, go support Psy right now. People, those of us who make our living primarily in the live music industry have been extremely impacted. And I'm not speaking for Psy because I don't know what her situation is, but regardless if she's been impacted or not, you should still go support her because she's dope. But
Thank
even,
you.
like this is serious. Like we've been really impacted by this this virus, and our entire incomes have been shot to zero. So
Decimated.
yeah, like nothing. So please support wherever you can. Please check out cyberspace.bigcartel.com, right? That's right.
Yeah, that's right. Thank
Okay.
you for that. And
So
I have definitely been impacted. Like, don't let all these name dropping fool you.
I want to speak for you. If you want to speak for
Yeah.
yourself, that's fine. But yeah.
I'm smiling and laughing through it, but it's a tough time for all of us, and like I just saw the other day that the Kennedy Center has canceled its gigs for the rest of 2020, and those are the venues that that I've been playing with Chris Bodie, that kind of thing, Kennedy Center and
Yep.
Carnegie Hall, and all of those things are closed.
Yep.
Uh, so it's definitely a tough time for us. So if there are independent artists that you like, support them, go to their merch shops, buy t-shirts, buy whatever they're selling, because it's tough out here for sure.
Indeed it is. Cy Smith, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. There was a lot of great information here. We'll be in touch. I can't wait to come to the backyard go-go.
Yes, sir. But you are on the list. So as soon as the world opens back up and we have that, you are definitely on the list.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, we just need to link up regardless.
For
Uh,
sure. Well,
aside
thank
from
you for
that,
having me.
no problem. It was great to have you. Thanks so much for coming on, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye.
All right, thanks. All right, thank you everybody for tuning in. That was Cy Smith. That was really amazing and awesome. She's so dope. Make sure you support her. Again, you can check out her new video at youtube.com/CySmith69. No, it's not anything sexual. That was the name of her old band, Star 69, which if you're old enough to remember, that's what you call to redial somebody back on the phone before you could just redial. That's for all you young folks. Also, you can get some of her merch at cyberspace.bigcartel.com. Make sure you tune in tomorrow. I will have Crazy Legs, King of the Beat Your Feet, who has been teaching the bounce beat style of beat your feet dance all over the world. And it's pretty cool. I'm really excited because one of their biggest videos features Mama Sauce song Miracles that, of course, I played guitar on and produced and co-wrote. So check that out tomorrow. And I don't remember who we have next week, but just check the website, GoGoTalx.co, for all of the upcoming shows. GoGoTalx.co. Again, it's co, not .com. And then if you would do me a favor, please, then just subscribe and click the bell icon below. That helps us out a lot. The bell icon will send you a reminder when there's a new show coming up. And you can also, again, like I said, just go to GoGoTalx.co and check out the upcoming schedule that's being updated all the time. And eventually, when outside opens back up again, you can go to GoGoTalx.co and you will actually see show listings for when shows are actually happening. So thank you again very much. I appreciate all the support and everybody checking it out. And we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks a lot.